And so we have an ego that thinks that it's like, oh no, I only came here to experience happy things and good things.
Right.
But you have a soul that came here to experience everything.
I've been able to partner with Headspace to bring you a special 14-day free trial to explore all Headspace has to offer. You can think of Headspace as your mind's best friend. Through science-backed meditation and mindfulness tools, Headspace helps you create life-changing habits to support your mental health and find a healthier, happier you. Headspace is proven to reduce stress by 14% in just 10 days. It can also help you relax your mind in minutes, improve focus, and get the best sleep ever. To access your 14-day free trial, simply click the link below or head over to chrissykdm.org/headspace.
I'd like to welcome Zach Rehder to the show. Welcome, Zach. How are you today?
I'm really good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Before we started this recording, I was telling you a little bit about how I heard about you, which is through breath work, but I know that you do more than just working with people and breath work. So to kick off, can you tell us a little bit about what you do as a healer and the modalities that you use?
Sure. I think in everything that I do, everything is in one way or another is designed to point us back to ourselves. You know, we all have our own deep connection, our own deep truth within us, and you know that's where all the magic is. And so it's not about necessarily giving somebody some piece of information. It's like how do we find that in ourselves? And so the breath is an incredible. I don't think you can do anything without the breath here. So first of all, that's such an important piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then just really it's like reminding people and inviting people back into their own knowing. And so each one of us, we're so incredibly intuitive and aware, and beyond what we could ever understand. So inviting people back into that, into their own power, and so uh, and all the different ways that we can do that. We can move energy, we can breathe, we can ask questions. Um, feel what's true for someone or not. All the different tools to do that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love how you said bringing people back to themselves. That is the intention of the podcast. So many things you said I'm excited to dive into. But before we do that, I'm curious. I know for myself and a lot of other healers and workers in this kind of space, they had somewhat of a journey getting to where they are now. A healing journey of their own. So how did this work find you?
Yeah, that could be a very long story, or I could try to sum it up. One of the things that when now when I look back, I can really see and totally make sense of like how every single thing that ever happened was a beautiful part of the journey, and everything, even the things that were really hard, the things that seemed like chaos at the time actually end up making sense, and it ends up becoming a part of like this valuable piece of who we are and where we're going, and what we're here to do and how we're here to serve. And so there's so many of those things. When people, sometimes I just say that it was dumb luck that got me to where I'm at, because for most of it, and still today, I don't know where it's going. But I do know now that it's like I do know that all of it is on purpose. I do know that whatever the universe has presented before me today, and it's here to serve me, so I can receive it. And in the receiving of it, it's like, wow, that provides a whole different life than fighting against everything that comes before us. Which I did that for a long time and got to see how that doesn't work. So
I can totally relate.
yeah.
Sometimes I look back in my journey, and I think I was just telling a client the other day, the most chaotic times where I felt like I wasn't connected to the universe, or that I didn't have God or source with me. When I look back, I can really see that God was there the whole time, leading me through those super dark, super chaotic, or how I would interpret them as dark or chaotic. So I love how you had the same experience, because I think it's pretty common across the board.
Yeah. And some of the hardest times actually ended up being, those were some of the biggest catalysts, or those had some of the breakthroughs on the other side of them. And so it's like, now when I'm working with people and or if I'm in a tough time, it's kind of like, okay, this is going to be good. Whatever this is going to be good, because it's a lot right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious your thoughts about that, because I know that the deeper I get into my own work or my journey, I keep learning that suffering isn't necessary. However, the contrast that we experience in challenges or in dark times can also cause us to grow exponentially. And usually they do, if we're paying attention. So I'm curious your thoughts on that. Do we need challenges to return back to ourselves?
Yeah, I think that's one of the, it's like if everything was smooth the entire time, it's kind of like you just keep doing what you're doing, right? There's no, it's like, oh, just keep doing what I'm doing. And so it has been those challenges. It's been those things where our universe, so the whole world got flipped upside down on top of us. One of the pieces that was coming in, it was like, there's a misunderstanding that because we're having a bad day, or because things aren't going well in our life, that we've done something wrong, or that something's wrong, or any of that. And it's like, no, this is how growth happens a lot of the times, right? It's like everything's falling apart. It's like this, you didn't do anything wrong, right? This is the reorganization happening.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about the suffering, it's like the suffering is trying to fight against that, or trying to change that, or trying to like make things go back to the way they were before, instead of like, hey, that's what's happening right now. What do I want to do with it right now?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love how you said we're not doing anything wrong. And you said also, this is what's happening right here and right now. And I know that everything I read and in my experience, coming to that acceptance and being present with whatever's happening right now has been a huge avenue of relief and freedom for me. So I'd love it if you could talk about that a little bit, accepting and presence.
Yeah. When how do we want to talk about this? That's like when life gives us a situation that we wouldn't like to necessarily be in, right? Oh, I like it when things are going smooth all the time. And all of a sudden it's like here is, now things are different. Now things are not going the way that I want them to. One of the most important pieces to do here is to actually feel what we're feeling. Right? Because what we're up against the feeling that we've been resisting, or that we've been running from, or that we've been trying to get away from. And it's like, that's so often, even the mind that wants to understand why everything is happening the way that it is, it's like it wants to figure that out so that it can get rid of it, so that it can make us comfortable again. And so it's actually that discomfort, those feelings that we've been running from, is where all the magic is. And so I always tell people, it's like everything that you're looking for is found in all the places that you didn't want to look at, right? Yeah. Everything, it's found in all the feelings that you didn't want to feel. And so here it is. It's like life just gave me say a big disappointment, right? We can go into the story of what that means, which is kind of trying to manage and solve it and do something with it, or spend some time like, hey, would you just allow yourself to feel all the stuff that's happening right now when things didn't go our way. And the more that we can breathe with that and make some room for that, because usually those feelings get like very squeezed on and they're controlled and resisted. The more room we can actually let for them to express, to complete themselves, it's like they actually get to heal.
Right.
And that same thing, it's like when you feel something that was uncomfortable, if you actually get to feel that whole thing, it's not uncomfortable anymore. It's like it's like we just harmonized with it. And so that's the piece of like reclaiming pieces of ourselves, right? It's like we come in to this belief of this ego that believes in separation, that believes that no, okay, I'm this, and this feeling is something different, and I need to keep the two of us apart, and that's where the pain is. When I get to actually become one with this feeling again, right? It's like I am all the feelings. There's no feelings to avoid or to resist or to get rid of, because I'm all of them. When I get to receive all of them again, it's like I become even more whole, and now these are part of me and they don't bother me anymore. So it's my two favorite practices in the entire world are breathing and feeling. That's it. Like you can break it down so simple. It's like to breathe more and to feel more. It's like it just starts to change absolutely everything.
Yeah. I am thrilled that you love to feel and breathe. Feeling to me was, I had addictions. So it was the first thing I learned about when I was in treatment for an eating disorder 15 years ago. And what I realized was that I literally believed that the feelings, either one, were never going to go away, or they were going to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd love to hear, maybe some tools or tips or, ideas that we can offer listeners to feel safe enough to allow themselves to feel.
Yeah, totally. And you talk about addiction. It's like we all have addictions, right?
Mhm.
Our ego is just right.
Yes.
It's just a collection of addictions.
Yes, I do actually. I've posted a few things lately on my social media where I believe that we're addicted to our egos. We're addicted to thinking. And so the path to freedom is recovery always.
Yeah. Some of them are good. I'm addicted to brushing my teeth in the morning. I think that's a pretty, I
Right.
really like that one. And that one's working for me. So not
Yeah.
all of them are as destructive.
Right.
But again, it's like those addictions, it's a way to manage feeling, right? It's like I can do the thing that's like I know what that feels like. That can maybe get me out of or get me away from this. And so again, it's another way to avoid feeling.
Mhm.
And so just saying this, and like it's not a bad or wrong thing that someone is in an addiction.
Oh, right.
Like
Yeah.
like that same thing too, and that's why I said it's like no, we all do addictions, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I overate this week, right? That there's
Yeah.
an addiction to that. It's like we're eating past that's an addictive state. So
Yeah. I just want to say I would never trade my experience that I had. It wasn't fun. I was in hell. I was suffering. But the journey through it, I would never have, I mean, I can't say that because I really don't know, but chances are I wouldn't be the same person that I am today. I wouldn't have the capacity to feel so deeply if I
totally.
hadn't gone through that experience.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And so it was hell. And eventually going through it, it's like, oh wait, actually that you're right. It breaks us open. We find deeper parts of ourselves in all of these things. And so and then what you're talking about, like, what, because everybody has this, in some area or another, it's like, hey, you know what, I'm really controlling these feelings or these emotions or whatever over here. It's like if I stopped controlling that, I don't know what would happen. I don't know if I could handle it.
Yeah.
Um, and that comes from the logical place. because it's like, well, I've always controlled this. And so I truly don't know what is going to happen if I just let it go or if I just surrender to it. And so the assumption is, it's like, it might not be safe. I might not be able to survive it. And so that's usually the loop that our mind is telling us, right?
Yes.
And
That's
so
what my mind tells me.
totally.
Yeah.
And I'm
Never going to go away. I'm going to get stuck in it, and
Yeah.
it might actually possibly kill me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Mm.
I've been there as well. And so I think that's a very common, right? I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this.
Mhm.
And that's coming from the logical place. And so one of the things I often set up, often when I first start working with people, I love to remind everybody that we have these wonderful minds. I love the minds. They're great. They're really great at what they do, and they're really bad at some of the other stuff that they're trying to do. And so it's like our mind is. It's like if I ask you, it's like, is it possible to understand infinite?
I don't think so.
No, like something that has no beginning, something that has no end. It's like you can't
Right.
you can't even comprehend it.
Right.
So our mind needs a box. It needs beginnings and endings. It needs to put things into things.
Yeah.
And so it's like our mind is incapable of understanding something that is infinite. And so who you really are, what you really are, why you're really here is beyond any story that you could ever think, is beyond any identity you could ever give yourself. It's like you don't fit into any of those, which is why a lot of the times our pain and suffering is just showing us that I'm trying to stuff myself into this box that I don't fit into. And so it's, and this is often how I love to remind people to breathe when we're doing this, when we're talking about these things. But it's like we don't fit into any story that we have about ourselves. And so even if this story, it's like, I don't know if I could handle this. It's like, well, it doesn't know what it's talking about in this situation in the first place. And so these are powerful places to do, where we do find our own knowing, where we do find our own truth or our own intuition. And it's why it's such a powerful practice to always be practicing and deepening our relationship with our knowing, with our intuition. Because it's kind of like, I don't know if I can handle this, but I know that I can, right? My mind is like, I don't know if I'm safe right now, but my heart is like, I know that I'm okay right now.
Yeah.
And it's like to keep finding that, like, makes it so much easier in some of these, because again, sometimes our mind is throwing a fit, it seems like the end of the world. The end of the world is happening, and yet in my heart, I know that I'm okay. I know that I'm safe. I know that I can relax right now. And that is often how we unwind some of these big, huge pieces. I know sometimes when I talk about intuition, people are like, "Oh, I'm not intuitive," and it's funny because I've heard every single person ever say, they're in some situation, and they come back and like, "I knew I shouldn't have done that." Right? It's like their knowing knew one thing, but their logical mind talked them into something else, right? It's like, I know to go left, but I think I should go right, and everybody else thinks I should go right, and so I'm going to go right. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I knew I should have gone left.
Right.
And that was speaking to like that we do know, and our knowing is so much bigger than the mind, and so the mind can't comprehend it or understand it or make sense of it, and so it's getting to know that deeper knowing, and it just makes it's like everything is walking us back to that anyway, but it makes navigating all of these so much easier.
Yeah. I love that you brought that right back to intuition, because I have a lot of questions for you around intuition. So what I heard you say was the knowing and the mind, as if they were separate. So is intuition and mind, are they two different things?
Yes. And this is tricky because we're using words. And many people many people use these words in different ways too. And so, when I'm speaking to this, it's like, like mind is logical, like logical thought makes sense or whatever. And then there's intuition or knowing. Sometimes I use those interchangeably. It's it's that knowing that can't be described. It's like everybody has also had the experiences where they just knew something, but they couldn't tell you how they knew. Right. I just knew to be there that day. Well, we'll explain how. I can't explain it. I just knew it. It's like, that's your knowing. And so, and we've all had those experiences because that's who we are. And so it's like to start to lean into that more, to start to explore that more, right? Like, how do you know, like, what does it feel like in you when you find like deep truth that you just know this is true, you just know this is in alignment. It's like, it feels a certain way, right? Right. That's your knowing speaking to you, right? How does it feel? And then, so that's a frame of reference. How does it feel to think that you're wrong? Does that feel like open and expansive and connected? Or it's like, oh no, that doesn't feel very good. It's like, what if that is your knowing speaking to you, letting you know that belief is not true?
Yeah.
Right. And so it gets really crazy because you look, it's like, oh my gosh, all of these thoughts that feel like crap. What if that was always just my knowing speaking to me, letting me know that none of those were true? And it hurt more and more the more that I tried to squeeze myself into those or to make those be real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I know that even now, I wouldn't say that I know when I know all the time, but years ago, I would get so worried about if I was right or not. Like, is this intuition or is this fear? And so I remember in the beginning of this conversation, you said we can't do it wrong. So I love bringing that element into it. Like, even if you make a choice and you shouldn't have, you didn't do it wrong. That's just another indicator to, like, evidence so that you can understand what that feels like.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's how most people get really good at their intuition, is by knowing one thing but doing the other thing and realizing that finally
Right.
hurts bad enough to where it's not as scary anymore to walk in, to keep stepping into the unknown. Because it's like, oh, I know to do this. And originally it's like, you know what, and I know how bad it hurts when I don't follow that knowing, even though I don't know where this knowing is going.
Right.
So I think that's a part of how all of us strengthen our intuition, is by knowing one thing, choosing the other, realizing like, oh, okay, cool. We start to see that here. It's like, okay, I was following the logic and ignoring the intuition.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
love that. And reminding ourselves that we can't do it wrong. So
yeah,
even if we made the wrong choice, there's a gift in that
yeah,
too.
for sure.
Because I know growing up, I was such a perfectionist that I can get into this idea of spiritual perfection, where if I wasn't, if I'm spiritual, I shouldn't be doing this, or I wouldn't have made that, choice. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I was a hardcore perfectionist too, and that's just another way to say like massive self-judgment, right?
I love that term.
Yeah,
That's true.
perfectionist. No, I just judge myself really, really hard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's like you came here. Well, let me ask you this. It's like, for you to feel into this, for you right now, and for everyone that's listening or watching this.
Mhm.
It's like when you came here as a soul to experience Earth, right? Did you come here to experience all of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth, right? That
Yeah, yeah.
we came here because my understanding is that in other realms, other realities, the knowing and the understanding is just there. And so Earth, this plane, this dimension, this reality, whatever we want to name it or label it, is to experience and to feel what it's like to be in a body, to have those challenges, to experience everything.
Yeah. And so we have an ego that thinks that it's like, oh no, I only came here to experience happy things and good things.
Right.
But you have a soul that came here to experience everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, oh, okay, no, I came here to experience mistakes. Right.
Mhm.
I came here to to totally mess up. I came here to explode. Like I came here to do and be a part of all of this. And so again, like none of this was wrong. This was all part of what you came here to experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like how you said, we didn't just come here. Sometimes our egos make us think that we came here to just be happy all the time and have everything feel good. But what I wanted to kind of go in that direction with is like, even that is a label and a judgment by our egos that this set of feelings or this set of experiences is good and something else that's not that is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And when we really dive into our bodies and feel, it's easier to not label things or to notice the labeling that we're doing to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, well, and the labeling gets in the way of feeling for so many people. And so I always leave everyone with this question: what if this does mean what I think it means?
Yeah.
So there's such a big difference between feeling and thinking we're feeling.
Right.
And so it's like the more that it's like someone is like, okay, no, this is what's happening. I'm angry, and I'm angry because this person switched lanes in front of me in traffic. And that's what all of this feeling is. And it's like, it's never what that is.
Right.
Right. Well, first of all, you've been suppressing anger for 40 years, and this person just tiny, tiny piece of it brought up all of this stuff.
Right.
And so it's not, again, it's like there's always our mind, especially in the beginning, is used to like throwing, okay, what is this feeling? I need to understand it so I can put it in a box so so I can try to control it. Where it's like, okay, what if none of this is what I think it is?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when we can unhook the mind from our experience, it's like, I just set it aside for a moment. What if I don't have to understand anything about what I'm feeling right now? All I'm going to do is feel. Right. And so when I take out the understanding, it's like we take out it's not good or it's not bad. Right.
Yeah.
It's not right or it's not wrong that I'm feeling this way. It's like I'm just feeling this way. And I get to spend some time feeling this way. And, there's going to be times for everyone where some magic starts to open up, where it was like, oh, okay, I thought it was this, but then I went into it and it's like, oh my God, it was something totally different, or it was a miracle, or it was like this thing. I finally stopped fighting against this thing that I quote unquote thought was bad. And it just gave me everything I was looking for.
Yeah. I heard you say, I finally stopped fighting.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge part for me and still is. And I don't know if you're familiar with authentic relating, but I do facilitate authentic relating. So there's circling, there's games, there's other modalities. And one of the first principles is to allow everything and resist nothing.
Mm.
And I think just allowing the feeling to be there is probably one of the biggest hurdles and probably the most important.
Yeah, there's magic in there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things too people can play with, again, like so much of this stuff is unconscious. It's just running because it's always been running. It was kind of like it's what most of the collective is doing. So we're swimming in the fighting against, right? and so I've always brought in like questions just for more awareness of ourselves and opportunities to open up in ourselves. And it's like we could just a check-in question of like, what am I fighting against right now in this moment? And I don't have to understand. It's not necessarily a cognitive thing, but it's kind of like it's a check-in with ourselves. And it's like, okay, if there's any place where I'm fighting against anything, taking, a deep breath and like putting down the fight. And, interesting. It's like, if you notice you get a lot lighter, or there's a peace or an ease, it's like, okay, there was a unconscious fighting going on, and we just interrupted it. We just set it down for a moment.
Yeah.
And we keep doing that. It's like, everyone will find the things that really resonate. They keep getting results. It's like, oh my gosh, I ask myself, what am I fighting against 100 times a day? And I keep finding things. And all of a sudden it's like, I'm feeling lighter and lighter. Now I'm catching myself where it's like, there's less and less fight going on. I'm showing up in an entirely new way. And so just these ways of, interrupting. Yeah. What am I trying to control right now? Which is, at first it's everything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. First it's everything. And so it feels really, really good. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just lost so much weight. I just took a break from controlling everything in the entire world for a moment. And wow, it feels really good.
Yeah. One of my first coaches before I got sober, so there was a 5-year period from recovering from the eating disorder and then getting sober from drugs and alcohol. And so in that time, I started to employ coaches and mentors outside of therapy or traditional therapy. And she said to me that control is an illusion. And I resisted her and fought her on that, but it always stuck with me.
Mhm.
And I'd love for you to riff on that for a little bit. Control and the illusion of the control.
Sure. I know. Talk about suffering. It's like everyone's trying to control their thoughts. And it's like, if you were in control of your thoughts in the first place, you would only think the thoughts you want to think.
I love that.
And so we were like, okay, wow, how much energy do we get back when we just let the mind go? Just let it do whatever it wants and feel everything that comes up. It's funny. It gets peaceful on its own when you feel it, but trying to make it peaceful creates chaos. Right now there's a battle going on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, hey, we're not in control of our thoughts. Okay. And if I'm not even in control of what I think, I'm definitely not in control of what everyone else thinks. So I'm going to let them all think what they want to think about me. And that's totally cool. They all get to do that. And that's another layer of stuff that I get to put down. And we realize it's like, well, what am I actually in control of right now?
And so when you said that, like, you could try to control the thoughts or you can just let them go, I instantly had this visual of meditation where you can watch your thoughts. And I know that's something that you teach. I mean, it's huge. Like, so many people are jumping into meditation, which is so fascinating to see the world shifting in that way. But let's talk about meditation for a little bit. So what is meditation?
Oh, that's a good question. I was going to say one thing about the thoughts.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like when someone notices like the thought loop or the repetitive thoughts, it's like, it's just the thought that we haven't felt fully yet. Right. And so we keep trying to like manage it and do stuff with it and do it. It's like when you just get to like leave it alone and make room for the thought and actually spend more time breathing and feeling all of the things that thought brings up. Right? It might not be one sitting, but it's like to really get to the feeling of all of the feelings that thought brings up, and you finally allow yourself to feel them. It's funny how minds will just stop thinking those things.
Yeah.
And so the mind is, it often gets misunderstood that it's like this obstacle or it's this thing that's holding us back or against us, but it's just always giving us the next thing to get free.
Yeah.
Right. And so when our mind is looping on something, it's like, here's like the next piece that I'm ready to get free in.
Yeah.
If I take the opportunity to be really present in my body and with my breath and really feel everything that I'm feeling and just like leave the thought alone and let it go. And, and that thought is no longer, it's like it loses its charge. It's no longer interesting. And so it can still exist, but it no longer does anything. It no longer means anything about me.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you brought us back to that, because I think that's really, when we talk about addictions, addiction is an obsessive thought loop.
Mm-hmm.
And just the other night, I think it was Saturday night, my daughter came to me before bed and she said that she was scared and that she needed my help. And I said, well, what are you scared of? And she couldn't get out of her mind. We saw a scorpion the other day, well, a month ago, probably. And she couldn't get it out of her mind. And she was afraid to be in her room. And so we talked about like how the thought just keeps coming in, right? The picture keeps coming in. She keeps seeing the picture in her mind. And so we just kind of sat there and we went through all the different scenarios that could play out if there happens to be another one. And she was able to, kind of feel into all different directions. And then last night I asked her, how do you feel? Are you still feeling scared? She's like, I haven't really thought about it since.
Mm-hmm.
So there's your example
Yeah.
in real life.
And it's like our mind will deliver things, especially like irrational fears are great examples. It's like it's just giving us the opportunity to heal fear out of our system.
Uh-huh.
And because I'm not necessarily going to tap into that fear if I'm thinking that everything is wonderful all the time.
Right.
And so it's like the mind starts like looping on, it's like, oh, what, the stock market or what happened,
Uh-huh.
the pandemic or like whatever it is, it's bringing up the feelings. It's like, what if it's just doing that to bring up the feelings? And the feelings are where the magic is. It's like this uncomfortable feeling that I've been trying to avoid or get away from.
Yeah.
And I actually get to spend some time just feeling and making room for it and allowing it to be here.
Yeah. I just really love that perspective. It just feels so gentle and accepting to think about it like that what a gift that this thought loop is coming up so that I can heal and feel it. Because if everything's fine, fine, we won't ever feel that. We won't ever experience that. And we won't ever get to feel that. So that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So meditation.
Meditation, yes. It's, I guess, probably depending on the day, I would talk about meditation in a different way. But I think above all, meditation is just being present with ourselves. One of the reasons I talk about the breath so much, it's like, we can only, the breath is a presence practice. You cannot breathe yesterday or tomorrow. You can only breathe right now. And so, any time that we're spending time consciously with the breath, it is a state of meditation, whether that's closed eyes sitting on the floor or whether that's like driving in traffic. And so that was one of the ways that I healed a lot of PTSD out of my system. So I used to race BMX professionally, and I've been in many, many bike wrecks, hospitals and stuff like that. And it started manifesting when I was older as like, I would catch myself realizing when I was driving how tense I would be. Like I would be like, just like white knuckle, like in traffic on the highway, a bunch of cars and stuff like that. I would be so, just so tight, so tense, not breathing, holding my breath. I used to have like flashbacks and just seeing terrible things happening and stuff like that. And realizing one day, just kind of realized like I got this download where it's just seeing the whole picture, and it was like, oh, okay, this driving that is stressing me out so much is giving me the opportunity to heal all of that past trauma that's still being carried with me. And so my new practice for driving became my meditation. And my meditation in that practice was like, okay, how much can I be present and really relax and open my body and just breathe deeply? And so it was like radio off, and so just breathe deeply and feel all of the things that I'm being invited to feel when I'm driving. And it was interesting. It was a very short period of time. It's like all the flashbacks went away. All of a sudden, it was like there was no more tension or no more fear or any of that stuff like that. It was like driving was giving me the opportunity to heal like the trauma from bike wrecks, and it was like that was the meditation practice.
Yeah.
Okay, how present can I be with my body, with my breath? And it's like presence heals everything.
Yeah.
And so meditation. Oh, go ahead.
I love the synchronicity. So when I was let go from my job in December, I was door dashing, but I actually got in an accident in September. So I was scared to go out and, door dash for some extra cash at the time. And what I did was I used that. I used it to to feel all of my resistance, because I was seriously resistant to every part of it, every single part of it. So I used it to get present. I used it to just to heal where I think I need to be somewhere else. So I used it as, this is my purpose. Even as I was delivering food at an apartment, every step on the stair to the second floor. And when I was driving, it wasn't comfortable at first, but I just breathed and I noticed, staying aware and alert, but I was more aware and alert. So I actually felt safer driving at that point. So I just love the synchronicity.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Yeah, no, totally. So, I mean, I encourage people to turn everything into meditation, right? Like to just be present with our body and with our breath, with our hearts, and whatever it is that we're doing. It's often it's like the part of our life that is maybe challenging, right? It's like if someone's finances aren't if they're in a place where they don't want them to be, it's like, well, notice, what are you doing when you're thinking about or when you're looking at your finances, right? It's like, oh, I'm holding my breath and I'm totally checked out and I'm just trying to like not deal with it. And it's like,
right,
to actually come back and feel all of those things that challenge is inviting us to feel is what opens up the magic, or whether that's our relationship, or maybe that's some health challenge that somebody is going through. It's like to really be, it's like, oh yeah, okay, there's a health challenge and it's bringing up a lot of fear. Yeah, spend some time with that. It's like breathe, and it's like we're meditating with that feeling and making room for it. And it's like it's like there's a magic in all of those things.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I would love it if you would be willing to maybe give us like a little introductory exercise to drop into that place, whether it's through breath or, just some sort of little meditation to, help us kind of recenter when we're feeling that resistance or anxiety or not wanting to be in the moment.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So all kinds of different breath practices. Let's see what would like to, one of the things, we'll do this one. I love this one just for actually starting to become more present in our bodies. And so the most important breathing practice in the entire world is just to breathe, right? To be with your breath. That there's magic in that. It's like if someone could go a whole day without missing a breath, like if you could spend a whole day present with your breath, it's like that's like you'd be a Buddha.
Yeah.
Be so tapped in. So
yeah. I heard once that 60 conscious breaths, if you can take 60 conscious breaths in a row, then you've far surpassed.
That's
So
probably, yeah, that's probably true. And it's Yeah, that's a great practice for people to go. It's like, count how many breaths can you take until you lose count, and then just start over. Do that when you're walking, and it's like it starts to develop such a presence and awareness, just like deepens us into ourselves. I really like this one as well that we'll do together. And so, for everyone to just find your breath, start taking some deep, relaxing breath. And just notice, what part of your body do you notice the least right now? And then scanning your body, maybe it's your feet or your lower back, but it's like finding the part of your body that you notice the least right now, and using your breath and your awareness to bring more life force there. It's almost like to wake that area up, to allow it to come more alive. And we'll do this again. And it's like, now, if you check in again, what part of your body do you notice the least right now? And it might be the same spot, or it might be a new place. And finding that new place and using your breath and awareness to invite this place to come even more alive. And we'll do one more round of this. Again, checking in one more time to find what's the next part and what's the next area of your body that you notice the least right now. We're just allowing this place to turn on even more, to activate, to wake up. And now just notice how you can breathe into all of your body a little more. Right? That it's all even more alive, it's more awake, it's more present. Cool. And you can do that for as long as you want. That's a fun practice to do, like, just for someone to play with every day. Like, if you do that enough, and then all of a sudden it becomes really hard to find the place that you're not aware of, because you're fully aware of just every cell in your body. And it's like, that's such a healing place. That's a great thing to do for someone that does have an illness or a disease. Because usually, like, illness and disease shows up in a place in our body that we have been cut off from, or that we've been neglecting, or that we've been, trying to avoid, or where we stuff or hide things. And so, bringing more breath and awareness into all of the areas of our bodies, it just invites healing.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I really appreciated the place that you noticed the least in your body, because as soon as I closed my eyes and started paying attention to my breath, there were parts of my body I immediately noticed. And so it caused me to connect deeper to myself. So that was very beautiful. I love how powerful some of these things are, and how quickly you can just connect by taking a few breaths.
Yeah. And anytime, and that doesn't have to be eyes closed, right? That can be while you're driving. That can be like whatever you're doing. You can be doing it right now while we're talking.
Yeah.
We're
in a big crowd.
Totally. Yeah.
I know I use that. I use it a lot when I'm in crowded places and I feel a little, overwhelmed. Just connecting, just paying attention helps calm me down. So I love that. There's so many ways to use the breath. And I know we're kind of getting close on time, but I wanted to ask you about, there's breath work to get present, there's breath work to heal. And I've never actually explored this, but there's also breath work to reach altered states of consciousness. So I'd love it if you talk about all those different types of breath work.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's so many. It's funny. I've been doing. I think I first got into breath work over 23 years ago, and so it's right. It wasn't the buzzword that it is today, and so when people say breath work, it's like speaking about a lot of different practices and a lot of different things, and so it is the simple practice of any conscious practice with the breath we're going to call breath work. So sitting there and just focusing on your breath we could call breath work. And then there's the practices of yeah, where we're using the breath, we're using the life force to open up, to open up altered states. It's that's what I do when I travel and put on events, and when I do retreats. It's like we're doing a lot more of that style, where we're really tapping into the consciousness of the breath, and the breath is always going to go heal. And so it's like we're flooding the body with extra life force, and it's going to go heal. It's going to move emotions. It's going to heal trauma. It's going to do magic. People have out of body experiences or spiritual awakenings, or get to hang out, get to visit with loved ones who have crossed over. Those are all very common things to happen.
Yeah.
So I always tell people to just go explore all of it, right? Like yoga has all of the pranayamas. That's there's all different kinds. It's like in my experience, there's nothing that has such an impact on the quality of our health, on the quality of our lives, as our relationship with the breath. And so anything that we're doing, any good practice or any good healer or massage therapist or whatever, it's almost like if they're not like inviting the client to use the breath, they're so missing out on like the bigger magic. And so it should be a part of everything, right? And the more we can bring breath into everything, it just really makes everything more powerful. But yeah, I just invite everyone to go explore all of it and see what speaks to you the most. So it's cool. It is becoming more and more popular, like all over the place. That's a good thing and a bad thing. There's a lot of great facilitators, and there's a lot of ones that don't know what they're doing, but use your awareness.
Right. Your intuition. And
use your intuition on who to go breathe with, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. I do have a couple of questions that I like to ask all my guests before we end, and they can take a little bit of time. So unless you have anything else to add about what we've already talked about.
No, that's
Okay, awesome. So the first question I have for you is a big one. How would you define God or source, or however you refer to the divine?
How would I define it? Well, I would not define it, as we spoke about earlier. Right? It's beyond words. It's yeah. How can I not give a it is the intelligence. It is the source. It's whatever is putting all of this together. That's that. We are a part of that, and it's why we are connected to absolutely all of it as well. And so and even everything that I said about it, it's like that's not it either.
Yeah.
It's even bigger. It's even more magnificent than that.
Yeah, words fall short. I don't think we could ever actually define it.
Yeah.
And I know too, for me, like starting out, 15 years ago, well, growing up, what my idea of God was, and then going to treatment and getting sober, like my understanding has evolved over time. And I don't think words can ever actually describe it, but that's what we have.
Yeah, I used to not be able to say the word for most of my life, because I heard what everyone else was saying about it, and I knew they didn't know what they were talking about. It's like that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Like all of that. And so I had this really cool experience with with a healer friend, that kept saying the word God, and it was like the first time that I ever saw anybody use it in like just a totally clean way, that there was no like judgment or manipulation or any of those things in there. And it was like just in being around that person, like using the word in such a clean way, it was like, oh, okay, cool, I just got this word back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's so many synchronicities to our paths. I feel like I actually grew up, I was raised Catholic, and for a huge chunk of my life, it wasn't like I was atheist or anything. I just literally did not have God in my awareness at all, just at all. And when I returned to, getting sober and the work, and I started to connect more to myself and start a spiritual path, there was a point where I was able to say it again. But until then, I had to use source or universe or creator or anything, like anything else.
mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. It doesn't care what we call it.
No, I love that. Okay, so the next question is a fun one. I think we already talked about this too a little bit. We touched on it. What would you say that the purpose of life is?
The purpose of life. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna say, it's here to have this experience, right, to take it all in, to feel all the things. Um, and I also know that it's bigger than that as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Carol. And the final question I have is, if you could take one piece of wisdom that you have today to a younger version of yourself, what would that piece of wisdom be?
Keep doing what you're doing. Like I wouldn't give any advice to like to change anything or to cheat the system or anything like that. It would be like, do it exactly the way that you're going to do it, because all of this is valuable, right? Like make all of those mistakes, like, yeah, do all the silly things.
Yes. I just feel like that's so loving and so accepting of our paths.
Yeah.
So that's
And then you'd probably be upset with the older version of you and be like, serious, you're not gonna,
right.
you don't got anything for me?
That's all you're going to tell me? I want something good. Yeah, that's great. Zach, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. How do people find you if they want to work with you, attend one of your events?
Yeah, the easiest is just my website is usually has all the things going on. It's zachrehder.com. And so or breathwork.events if someone doesn't want to spell my last name. So
awesome. I'll be sure to include all the information so that people can get in touch with you in the description. And I just appreciate you spending your time and your wisdom here with me and with everyone who's listening today. So thank you so much.
thank you. It was an honor to be here. Thank you.
I would like to personally thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you haven't already, please be sure to like this episode, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications so that you never miss a beat. And if you really resonated with this content, please share it with all of your friends so that collectively we can expand our consciousness. Have a very blessed week.